Hello and welcome to our Salesforce United episode, a podcast about Salesforce and people who work with it. Here we discuss engineering discoveries, professional secrets, and careers of our guests. I'm Olga Dmitrieva, a software testing engineer, and to my delight, your host.
Hello, my name is Elena Ulyanova, and I'm a testing and Salesforce enthusiast, Salesforce consultant, and to my pleasure, the host of this Salesforce United podcast.
So today we are going to talk about field service, something that makes sure businesses and customers are always on the same page. And today we have Laszlo Hajnal here, and he has been for a long time in the world of Salesforce, looking after everything from consulting to product management. Plus, he is very experienced in sales and service clouds. Laszlo has been in the game for many years and knows Salesforce inside out. And now he's here to explain us everything about Salesforce Field Service. So, Laszlo, welcome aboard. Nice meeting you today.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you, and I'm glad that I can be here.
Hi, Laszlo. Nice to meet you. And let's start from the very beginning. How did you get into IT industry and the sphere of business analysis?
Yeah, so basically my background is not really IT. I was graduated as an accountant. Basically, I have an economics degree. And after that, I started to work in human resources, but I was doing sales there. And while doing that, I was working for several companies where I had to use a CRM system. And since I am quite much into efficiency, so I really don't like when I have to duplicate things, or when some automation could be there but it's not there, or maybe I cannot record the way the information which would be actually useful for me to have reports or make some decisions. Therefore, somehow I was always getting in some kind of project which was involved with IT development and CRM development, or maybe integration of already existing systems. So while I was working as a side projects, I had several assignments at that time, not working in IT, where I had to do exactly what I like and why I like being IT and doing what I do, which is optimization or efficiency, and making the life of the end user is easier, and also providing the ability of growing business value, because the information actually which they can extract from the system is valuable for the end user and the decision makers to proceed further. So pretty much that's about it. And after that, obviously I was more conscious about realizing this motivation and this drive and passion for this, let's say, optimization work. I started to look more consciously about how can I get into IT without any background. And if any from our audience already listened for some of the podcasts, if for business analyst or Salesforce consultant, basically you can start without any background for IT. If you are enthusiastic enough, then you can have a lot of material online, which we may gonna mention later on, and you can start some self-learning and find a position for yourself from which you are going to be able to get into this industry.
Okay, so, and we see that you have succeeded a lot in this sphere. And first things first, so let's discuss what is Salesforce Field Service. Could you please tell our guests in simple words about it, and what kind of features does it provide to its users?
Yeah, sure. So scheduling and dispatching, if I need to condense what the field service does, obviously is much more, and there are different layers of functionality which the end users can utilize. But basically, that's about it. Like planning the work which needs to be executed, and also the execution of that work, managing the workforce in the field, like agents, technicians, and other field workers. It's part of the field service part, and the field service operation when they are being actually on the field, like relating the work order management, like one-time or recurring work orders for the customer, adding some details about the worker preferences, the required skills, what parts or products needs to be delivered. Also, details can be added about the customer side preferences. Then what I already mentioned, like the scheduling and the dispatching part, that is also a mobile application which features in the field service, which is supporting the field worker on the day-to-day activities and doing the administration on the fly while executing the job. Asset service management can be also included, for example, in the scope of the maintenance plan, when we know that we need to go there, and we can do automations, obviously, to maintain or exchange some parts on the client space, on the client premises, and many more.
Okay, thank you. So it looks like an interesting solution, and you have great experience in field service. So what would be your advice for those businesses who wants to transit to Salesforce Field Service from any traditional same solution?
Yeah, I think what is really important, and from that point of view, I think it's kind of general, that why do they want to switch? What is the main driver of this? Usually, when nowadays a client is deciding to implement field service, it is going along with the digital transformation and also maybe moving for the cloud. And what field service is, and I think that for the guests who are listening for this podcast are maybe familiar with it, is that Salesforce itself is an ecosystem. So maybe field service, client switching to field service in Salesforce is also tied along with a much more broader digital transformational change, in scope of which not only the field service is being implemented, but they want to manage all of the related customer information, including the sales or the customer service part, or maybe it is with advanced price, code configuration, integrations, health cloud related information, depending on the industry, of course, and that could be a driver for that. So in terms of the advice, obviously, usually a company who is deciding to implement field service, it means that they already have a legacy system. So what is important again to understand is to go and assess the differences between their currently working software and the Salesforce Field Service, what it can provide. Usually, compared to a legacy system, I would say that's much more data centered, and from that point of view, also usually tied with the back office much more closely. While with Salesforce Field Service, it's much more about the 360 view with the customer, along with all the other clouds which may be used by the client. And therefore, every information can be seen in one place. And maybe a different type of integration would be needed to be connected with the back office, or usually that's the case. So what's important to understand, I think, is to assess properly the differences between the existing solution and Salesforce Field Service, and making a decision about moving to field service, supposed to be based on this analysis, and also what are the possible gains they can do with that. Usually, but this is obviously just in generally speaking, one of the main drivers is customer satisfaction and also employee satisfaction. So Salesforce by default is providing quite good user experience in terms of the user interface, but also compared to a traditional CRM solution, one feature which has been not mentioned previously, for example, is that it can be embedded the live agent communication when the end user, the customer, is turning on the camera on the mobile phone, for example, and they can have a live chat with the agent in order to resolve an equipment-related issue, for example, which is obviously not something legacy logistics system should possess, because that's usually focusing much more on the either the scheduling / logistic part, also on the asset management part, much more like an ERP system. And while Salesforce Field Service is not taking over the role of the ERP, and usually that's something which is required still going on by using Field Service, it is much more like enhancing and broadening the perspective of what are the functionalities and the fine-tunings which can happen in Field Service. And there are some other generic things, but I think I will stop here for now.
Laszlo, with your vast experience, I'm sure that you have some really interesting stories to share. And can you tell us, please, any challenging business scenarios solved using Salesforce Field Service?
Yeah, sure. Actually, during one of my projects, and here I'm trying to be as generic as possible, basically one of the features of Field Service, and maybe these use cases maybe would be more interesting for the ones who actually have some knowledge about Field Service itself, is that when we are doing the scheduling, there are different aspects of the scheduling which can be taken into consideration automatically by the scheduling engine. And the requirement, what we had at the time, again being generic as much as possible, is that we have a branch, a central warehouse, for example, out of which different products are being served for the customers. And these different products has been served by using different vehicles, maybe different technicians with different skill sets, maybe different operating hours, and so on. And these agents had to be managed separately along with the territories from the scheduling point of view. And now the thing is that in Field Service there is this feature which allows polygon mapping, which is a geographical area associated with the service territory, where we are actually going to send the agents and planning the routes one after another, which one's supposed to come. And what the requirement was here, and that was which was pretty challenging to solve, is that here these territories, these geographical territories, have been overlapping, geographically speaking, which obviously can be quite easily to draw and assigned to a service territory. But here we had to build up a robust logic in order to properly identify, when we are creating a work order, that for that work order, based on the product and which is associated to the work type, for which polygon, therefore for which service territory, this work order along with the service appointment supposed to be assigned, and as a result, which agent is going to be able to pick up later, and how the scheduling engine can handle that. So that was one of the I think interesting scenario we have to solve, and we solved it. So it was pretty properly handled. But not only talking about let's say the bright sides, I also brought another one which was, let's say, partially solved, and that's where maybe some hiccup can also come into the picture. Is that we had a limit in the vehicle in terms of delivering some products. So let's say, 10 products can fit into the vehicle. And the scheduling solution itself was not designed in a way to handle dynamically the products which are being loaded into the vehicle. And when I'm saying dynamical evaluation, like if you are starting a truck with 10 products, and you also need to do product withdrawals, then obviously in your first visit you can't withdraw a product because it is not fitting in your vehicle. And there are these different more complex calculations throughout the days when the scheduling is being launched, is that what is the most optimal route based on all the different aspects what we are feeding into the system to be taken into account, meanwhile also taking into account the capacity of the vehicle based on the already planned route, and try to optimize that. So it is a very, very complex calculations which are running in the background, and we started to build up a custom solution for that, which we did. But since it was not a built-in functionality of Salesforce, therefore it was taken for further assessment, and it has been decided that they are going to use for this scheduling purpose a different solution along with Salesforce. So they are going to remain with Salesforce, but at that particular time, there was a different tool which was already providing better, because they were already using that tool quite some time already, and therefore that was already suitable to do this more than field service. On the other side, this is something which Salesforce also knows is not really something they can do that much well, but as far as I'm concerned, in the future they are still planning to extend this part of the functionality. So maybe as the time passes, the system will be able to handle this type of requests better compared to by the time when this was coming up.
Okay, well, looks like it's not the very easy solution to learn and to implement, actually, but very useful for the business. From your point of view, can you share your perspective on the future trends in the field service management with Salesforce?
Yes. I think one of the things I already mentioned, which is in relation with the digital transformation. So I think that nowadays, I think it's more and more difficult to handle anything outside of the complex system, complex IT system, what usually a company has. Especially field service is obviously something, if you are not delivering something somewhere, let's put it this way, then obviously it's not relevant for you. But I would say it's rather a rare case that only field service from Salesforce is being implemented, but rather it is usually a scope of a bigger change. So I think that's one of the future trends that because of the digital transformation, field service is also going to be considered usually as a part of a bigger package. Also, I think, and this is also something partially I already mentioned, is the user experience or the employee experience. Is that what the customers are expecting? So we are already quite far away. When, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, you knew that a package will arrive, I don't know, at some point. And nowadays, we already have some providers where you can check in real time where the agent is at the moment. And you can see, like, maybe he's just, 2 streets away, and you are going to be the fifth address where he's delivering. And that's already possible today with the field service, by the way, if every legal compliance is fulfilled, obviously. But that's something which is changed. So the customers are expecting more, and also the employees are also expecting more. Not like working in a software which is clumsy to use. There are informations in front of them which is may or may not be relevant for them within all the user interface. And therefore Salesforce is also excelling for this area. The field service worker expectations are also changing, not to do the documentation on paper, for example, and then doing the administration with that, but the mobile applications and the implementation of field service, that is also something which can be enhanced for them. Moreover, what we already touched is this remote assistance and the collaboration, that these issues can be solved quickly on the field. Like previously, it was that if a device for which there is a guarantee and an expert technician needed to repair it, the patient called, for example, or the customer just called the company and they said something is not working, and maybe they were trying to on the other side, the customer service agents were trying to explain some things, maybe push some button, checking this or that. But eventually, in many cases, the technician had to go with a car, which is obviously a bigger cost compared to a phone call. Nowadays, simple with a phone and with a video call, more issues can be fixed that way, which is cost saving for the companies, obviously. So along with all of these, I think that the productivity and the cost savings can be boosted, and also not to mention what is currently a hot topic, which is AI and automation. The Salesforce Field Service can also leverage the AI to be more efficient. For example, like collecting information which could be relevant for a field service worker and showing them during a visit. I think pretty much that's it.
Yeah, it seems that you have to keep a lot of information in your mind to keep the pace of the Salesforce and all its evolution. And what is the approach? What kind of approach do you have as a business analyst? And in general, the person who is involved in Salesforce, how do you keep up with all the updates and new features of Salesforce?
Yeah, so I think, I like the way how you phrased the question, like not only tailoring field service, but also Salesforce generally speaking. Because I think it's pretty much the same, like if you would be involved with any other cloud, is that obviously there are the release notes about the product itself, which is tailored down and specific for a specific cloud. But if you are interested more in field service, obviously, always the one is interesting for you where you are more interested. Trailhead, which I think is quite a useful and generic source of information. There are also some blogs and forums, for example, the Salesforce Ben, which I like quite much. Trainings and webinars, especially preparing for certification. So I would also propose that even though if you are not planning to pay for the certification itself, there are different learning paths even on Trailhead, or maybe there are different, maybe sometimes paid courses, which is giving you the foundation, and the understanding about the different clouds if you are just starting by, or you want to expand your understanding about the functionality. And obviously there are some events depending on your location where you can attend, either organized by Salesforce or by the local Salesforce community. And I think that's it. In where you can be inspired from.
And the network, I guess, because people around you can inspire you as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Laszlo, today we're really speaking about field service, as you have already mentioned, but I'm really curious, what is your favorite Salesforce cloud and why?
Yeah, it's a tricky question because, there are different angles how I can select. Like the first one I was working with was a Sales Cloud. So obviously it has a specific place in my heart. If I have to mention the most complex one, most probably it would be Field Service because, how I like to call is the scheduling engine is that you have the option to specify some input data, but there are some things which is happening in the black box. We don't exactly know how is it happening, some parts. So, and still it is still one of the most complex. But honestly speaking, if I must say, I like the Salesforce ecosystem as a whole itself because the basis is the same or very similar for each of them. And if you know one cloud, then partially you know all the other clouds. Okay. I'm here exaggerating a little bit because I don't know, there are Experience Cloud, which is quite much different, or Salesforce Marketing Cloud, which is also quite much different compared to the core clouds, which are the Sales and the Service Cloud mainly. But I would say that the Salesforce ecosystem itself is quite enjoyable for me, because once you get in, then after that it's easier to deep diver and get to know other clouds and changing based on your interest between the clouds.
Okay, thank you, Laszlo, for your answer. You have already told us about the way how to expand the technical expertise in field service for any specialist. But what are the most important skills if we are talking about the scope of the business analysis focus? What are the most important skills of a business analyst working in field service?
I think it's important to underline that here again we are talking about field service, so not just like, let's say, full stack business analyst, let's say, but rather like a field service business analyst. Honestly speaking, I like to position myself more as a consultant from this point of view, which means that I'm obviously performing the business analyst related work, or I could perform those as well. But as I think anyone is gaining more and more knowledge on the field service, on the business analyst part, I think eventually, if they have the motivation, they can just go for the path of consultant, and later on maybe for the business solution architect related fields, which I am also planning to reach at some point. But going back to your original question, obviously, business analyst for Salesforce needs to have a strong understanding about the Salesforce product itself. So without that, it's quite difficult to discuss with the clients in terms of what requirements and functionalities they need to have. Because if you as a BA, you already have an understanding, then you can already do some shortcuts in terms of the client's requirement and make the job easier for the development team, which is already somewhat a consultancy. So even if you are not that experienced with Salesforce itself, even with the basic functionality, you can have some idea how would you do that in the system if you spend some time with Salesforce administration already. And I would say that the other aspects are quite similar for a Salesforce business analyst as for any other business analyst, which is like the documentation. Just to talk about the technical skills to documenting the requirement, the processes, and the solutions, having the proper communication with the proper stakeholders, so to identify the stakeholders, what topics needs to be discussed with them, and what's supposed to be the priority to be handled in scope of that. Last but not least, also the data management. I think it's quite important, because that could be including importing, exporting, and maybe also maintaining some data. That's not necessarily the job of a business analyst, but it's important. It could be important to understand some context in the system, which is usually more technical compared to, let's say, a full stack business analyst who is not specified in Salesforce, but rather maybe having a kind of generic approach for business analysis. And just to say a few words about the soft skills as well. Again, I would say this is again quite generic, like the analytical thinking and the problem solving, which is usually quite handy for business analysts to discuss and dissect complex business problems, conducting thorough analysis and propose also effective solutions. The communication skills are very important to articulate the complex ideas clearly and concisely for all type of stakeholders who may work on different levels. And also the BA needs to be a little bit of Swiss knife, which I would classify as a soft skill. Like there is a bucket of responsibilities what a BA could do, and usually 60 or 70% is utilized on a project, but which 60 or 70% it is varies project from project. So flexibility is, I think, also one of the needed soft skills for business analysts. Let's stay at this top 3 for now.
Okay, Laszlo. So thank you very much. It seems that we have run out of the questions we planned to discuss today. And we would like to thank you for this discussion and hope that our listeners will be inspired and will try to learn field service and be a professional.
Thank you very much. I hope it's going to be valuable for our guests.
Thank you, Laszlo, for the conversation and sharing your experience. And thank you, dear listeners, for being with us. As always, we will be very happy to receive any comments, questions, and ideas. And if you like the podcast, please rate it on the platform and share with friends. Till very soon.
Yeah, and until then, keep trailblazing. Goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.